If anyone out there, family has been affected by this COVID-19, my heart goes out to you. I'm glad that, we're about to launch this steady together. You do a wonderful job. People need to know who you are because I consider you a hero.
In a time where people could be really torn apart, it's like these communities all over the United States, all over the world, have managed to pull together.
Thank you, Steady. Thank you, the Workers Fund. You guys are helping a lot of people out. It's really awesome. Hope everybody stays blessed in this hard time.
Like, I could cry right now.
Hi there, my name is Ano Makanda. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. I'm 29 years old, and I'm just so thankful to the Workers Fund and to Steady for the $1,000 grant. It completely changed everything. I just got laid off from my job. I was scared, trying to figure out how I was going to make ends meet. I was able to pay my rent, pay my car note, and put some groceries. I just moved into a new place, and I was able to, get the things I needed essentially to keep going.
Thank you so much for what you're doing. You guys have no idea. It's going to help me pay my rent, still have a roof over our head because of you guys. And I appreciate it so much.
Hi, Steady. Thank you so much. This donation, it has really helped my son and I.
Thank you, Steady, for the relief funds. I would have never expected to be in such an unstable situation. It is really reassuring to know that these funds will be there to help me survive for another month and to help provide a strong wall to lean on.
This money is going to change my life. I didn't expect it this morning, but now I can make my truck payment. I can keep helping people because I'm a first responder. Thank you, guys. You guys are the best. I never expected that, but thank you for letting me sign up with Steady.
I didn't realize how much my income had changed until I looked at the Steady app. And then I got this email that said, you may qualify for a grant. So I went ahead and filled it out, and they ended up depositing $835 into my account, which I used to travel to find another position to work. So thank you so much, Steady, for all your help.
Greetings from the Niffley family / Ivory family. First of all, we want to say how much of a blessing it was to receive this money. It helped pay off some of my bills that I had. It helped me get gas. It helped me get food for these little heathens. So we would like to say we love you guys and thank you for the blessing.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Hello and welcome. Good afternoon and welcome to the Atlanta stage. I'm Kissi. I'm a journalist and producer currently based in New York City. I'm here today with Michael Loeb and Adam Roseman, the fantastic co-founders of the Steady app. Let's jump right into it. Michael, Adam, welcome. And thank you so much for participating in Fintech South. Your app is revolutionary. It is changing the way America works. As of July this year, over 2 million people are using your app. We want to get right into it and ask the how, the why, and what's next. Michael, you want to tell our crowd a little bit about yourself and how this came to be with Adam? You guys are both successful serial entrepreneurs. America needs this. What prompted you to dive right in with Adam?
Well, first of all, Adam and I have had the pleasure of working with Adam since 2006, 2007. Adam back then was a young man, and I was introduced by a friend of mine who ran the Clinton Global Initiatives, who said, you got to meet this young banker. And I met Adam, was immediately smitten. At the time, I had set up a merchant bank in Shanghai, China. And I said, Adam, check it out. And if you like it, you can run it. And again, he was in his 20s, he was single, and he said he liked it, and he brought it to not just Shanghai, but 7 or 8 other cities in China. So had a very nice run there and thought, let's do something else together. And that was, I think, the collaboration. And as for the inspired thought, I'm going to turn it over to Adam and he can talk about that. So Adam, your show.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much. Absolutely. It's been an honor working together for so long, and actually the first time we've done a conference presentation together. So excited about this. So thank you.
Not the first time I was asking you to do it. You just said, you were concerned about my performance. So anyway.
Not at all. So inspiration for study, I think, it was a joint effort. Michael had seen a couple of statistics in particular around the percentage of the U.S. population that had at least one form of debt in collections, and started digging into what was the impetus for this. Why was there such a rise in poor financial health when supposedly we were in such a tremendous financial upcycle? Sure. And that's when Michael and I connected, started digging into what was driving these massive financial challenges, and started doing work around the nature of work, how people were working in the US, and found incredibly quickly that first off, a couple of experiences were very relevant to my life, and that, close to 50% of the American workforce as of 2017, the number would even be higher today, are working more than one job to pay the bills during the course of a month. And that number was less than 10% if you go back and look at it in the 1980s. And in terms of my own situation, I grew up both with a mother who was in that situation in the 80s and a father who's now in that situation today. And the conclusion that we came to was effectively that workers had been left behind, that there had been such massive technology advancements in the ability for employers to reduce labor costs through real-time labor optimization, through automation. And the result to the worker was rarely a positive. And so our perspective was that we needed to put the power of data, the power of tech, back into the hands of the worker. And that's where the genesis of building this quote unquote robo-advisor for income came about.
Fantastic. So by your own definition, Steady is advocating for the quote millions of people who are changing the way America works, aka the side and hustle and gig economies. You may work your 9 to 5, but guess what? You're driving Lyft or Uber on the weekends just to make ends meet. And this is a result of everything you've just broken down for us. The Steady platform helps communities find jobs, increase their income, and quote, plan for financially stable futures. Can you talk a little bit about the financially stable futures aspect of it? It's just not an app where you go and say, okay, I'm going to go work this weekend. There's more to it. And as we saw from the launch of this session, there were cash grants deposited to people not too long ago. Can you talk a little bit about that? And Michael, also, what about the technology that's powering this? Obviously, this is not pencil pushers sitting in an office in Midtown Manhattan. There's a huge technological aspect to the Steady app that seems to be constantly evolving to the needs. With 2 million users, that's a big deal, and the uptake seems to be increasing. Your growth has been exponential. Can you speak to a little bit about this?
So, Adam, why don't you take the first part? I'll talk about the second part.
That sounds great. Perfect. So I think that the core of Steady is what we like to think of as our income intelligence. And this is a data mapping exercise that involves everything from bank transactional data, specifically focused on inbound cash flow, so credits in a bank account, and mapping those credits to employers. Specifically, given that transaction cleaning that exists today, specifically through the large data aggregators, is predominantly focused on understanding the spend side of the ledger, the merchants that are on the spend side of the ledger for the use case of most of their customers to date. There's not been the focus on understanding those inbound cash flows and how they correlate to specific employers. So that has been a big focus for us. Then mapping those employers to industries. Those industries back to work types, those work types back to skill sets that correlate with those work types, and then helping to assign a value to skills and experience built on collaborative community data, right? So it's all built on lookalike audiences. And so for us, what that helps us do is really understand how people work and how people earn. And from the standpoint of our cash grant program, as we got into the onset of COVID, we knew that there was no longer a job for everyone, right? We came into COVID in a quote unquote full employment situation, right? Where there was a job for everyone in this country. But the massive problem was underemployment, right? And wages. Now that's been flipped upside down. And, by our measure, there's roughly 30 million individuals in the US right now who are collecting either traditional unemployment or PUA, pandemic unemployment assistance for 1099 workers. And there's roughly 4 million jobs that are available right now, right? And so we knew that we had to address these challenges in a different way than just finding people work. And so what we did is looked at that income intelligence, looked at those industries where individuals we knew would be facing challenges due to the hiccups that those industries had faced, like hospitality, food services, rideshare. And we partnered with a nonprofit and started on a fundraising exercise to start automatically deploying cash grants to those individuals that had sizable income loss to help stem the tide. And I think the most powerful thing is that now that we've deployed over $3 million US, we've started to measure based on that financial data, the impact of these dollars, right? And there's been a narrative that's been developed around the concept of you give people cash and they won't work. Well, the fact of the matter is, if you look at 3 months out and 6 months out relative to those individuals that received the grants versus those that didn't, and with this effectively the same cohort, they were just not selected or didn't respond. Those that received the grants performed better in every single month from an income perspective, from month 1 all the way through month 6, based on the fact that their near-term challenges were alleviated or at least minimized, and they were actually able to commit the resources and energy to go out and find work.
That's fantastic. And this kind of deep dive into the data, it's been aces all around. No one has flopped, right? Everyone's life has gotten better just from this small gesture that you made. I mean, small in terms of just doing the right thing, but $3 million is a lot of money. And just like you said, the industries that have been impacted, bars, restaurants, hotel, the entire hospitality industry, some of these jobs may never come back. And Steady has become an integral part of day-to-day life now for so many. So that's fantastic. And it's really great that you're addressing, Steady that is addressing this greater social issue. You talk about unemployment. The stock market is not the economy, and the economy is not the stock market. We may be doing well, but guess what? Our friends are not. There are people, more than half the country is not heavily invested in the market. More than half the country may not even have ongoing or be participating in their company 401ks. So this is critical. It's not just a lifeline. It's almost the new way of work, so to speak. And I think there's a big impact to this, not just on society, but technology for good. We hear so much about evil tech and bad tech. This is technology that's doing good around the clock. It's not a one-off. It's constantly evolving. So Michael, in terms of impact, can you talk about, you're heavily invested. Yes, you have a great relationship with Adam. You respect him. You love him. You go way back. The bond is there. But what clinched it for you? Why did you dive in and at the level you did?
Well, Dawn, I'm not prepared to use the word love here. Just saying. I did maybe. But the last time we look at these statistics, I'm wondering if this is current, but the average Steady member was earning an extra $330 a month.
Which is significant, right?
Oh, that's enormous. I mean, a lot of times, that's $4,000 a year. That could be 10% of somebody's income.
But in some states, it's probably more than an unemployment payment.
Yeah. And that's, again, just the incremental. That's just income optimization. Mm-hmm. And we're getting better at this all the time. And that statistic, maybe Adam has something a little bit more current, but the last time we measured it, and that might have been a year ago, was $330 a month. And that's real, right? An extra $330. Now, how could that be? Well, let's just take the driving services. The fact of the matter is you're very busy during rush hour, off rush hour, not so much. And there's too many cars on the road at that point, right? And so what if some of those people were, instead of, driving passengers that didn't exist at that time, what about walking dogs, right? And so it's Steady that makes those job recommendations about how to optimize your income, and also who in the area is paying the most for what. And, what they do is they try to qualify you for multiple things and find out what your financial goals are, and then direct those activities to make you more money. So there's a lot out there in the fintech space that is focused on, lowering costs, like lowering the water. This is the one that's raising the bridge. And as Steady gets more and more data and more members, it gets more and more proficient at dispensing that advice. So I think, Dawn, you asked kind of, what was the inspiration, or what was the thing that made me so smitten about this idea, in addition to Adam as an operator? The notion that, this so-called gig economy is growing in numbers. And this, by the way, is an artifact of this, right? Mobility and a cell phone. And right now, right, this has been used as the best friend of the employer. We're trying to flip the script. And this same device, right, could be used to direct you to the jobs that are going to make you the most amount of money at that moment, right? Not yesterday, not tomorrow, right now. How can you make the most amount of money right now? Instead of driving, for Uber and having no passengers in your car, what can you do right now to make more money? And then we're giving them a bunch of very sound advice, because what we want is not only for them to make money, but also, to spend it wisely and invest it wisely, or save it wisely to the extent that they can. So you use the word advocacy, that is totally appropriate. We are the advocate of the worker. We know that this, patchwork of different jobs is not going to go away. That's part of the future. That has been enabled by mobility. The fact of the matter is, every company has its own rush hour. It's not just Uber and Lyft, but it's also Walmart, right?
Yeah.
At 9 o'clock in the morning, it's quite a bit different than at 6 o'clock in the evening. So, and employers, as they harness the mobility for themselves, are going to use it more and more. What about the worker? How can we get the worker? How do we get technology? How do we get information? How do we get data to help them flip that script, put the power in their pocket, right, in their phone, and get them to make more money and do smart things with that money? And that's really what the goal of Steady is. We are their advocate.
That's fantastic. And you could see the emotion, you could see the changes, small gestures. Even if it was $50 here, guess what? That's $50 for gas and parking to get to that next job this weekend. That's $50 for a utility bill that XYZ didn't have.
And there's part of this that that consumers don't know about, and there's part of this that that the financial types don't tell you about. But let's take things like credit card debt, right? Now, how come people pay as much as 29.9% on their credit card debt? Real statistic. And the answer is, it's an algorithm. And the algorithm looks at your income and looks at your debt and says, you know what? You're a big risk.
Yeah.
So we got to charge you more. Well, that's kind of like a terrible, cycle, right? We got to charge you more so you have less, so it costs you more, so you're more likely to go bankrupt. But if you made a little bit more money, right? A little bit more money, your cost of credit goes down. Your FICO score improves. Everything gets better. So that's what we are trying to do with our advocacy. We're trying to make them make more money. We're trying to make them be more efficient. We're trying to have them enjoy their lives a little bit more, because if you are making more money in the hours that you work and you're reaching your financial goals, maybe there's more time that you can spend with your kids.
For sure.
So, this is the new world. We're not going to push back the tide. Employers have figured out, and by the way, we've only doubly figured out in COVID, because now everybody's working from home. So it's a puddle jump from that to everybody's 1099, right?
Exactly. I mean, we're not on the stage together right now. We're in 3 different locations. Yeah.
Right. And I'm so remorseful about that, about not being okay. But in any event, the upshot is you are no longer going to get people to have traditional employment like from the Mad Men era. Then you are going to be able to push back the tide. This is the future. We might as well realize that. These people who work in that economy do not have an advocate, right? Their power is that they work for different companies. The power of the companies are that, and it's divide and conquer, but we're putting it all together for them, making them empowered so that they can choose the best jobs that pay the most And guess what? If you're paying second most or third most or fourth most, how many employees are you going to get? None, right? So that way, instead of a race to the bottom, it becomes a race to the top. That's the goal of Steady.
Well, you've got a great president, CEO. Adam's personal story, I think, is to some extent woven into just the whole aura of Steady. You know, when I spoke with him initially, you know, single parent household. And the data shows that single parent households, many are not as well off as two parent households. So him seeing it from both sides, both in his youth and now, to see the situation with his father, I think was very moving. For me personally, it was very moving. You know, no matter where you are, it's always better. Two incomes are always better than one, regardless of the situation. So I think that genuine drive to, you know, for someone that's lived through this, he knows it, he gets it. Everyone in that video, I'm sure Adam can relate to it, but you're on the finance side. And I feel like, would you consider yourself a social impact investor at this stage in the game? And also, you spoke a lot about data and the algorithms. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say Steady is a data-driven company more than a fintech company, or a little bit of both?
Gee, I mean, you're giving me a softball. It's a little bit of both, of course.
Yeah, of course.
You know, look, the data is vital, and nobody has taken all this data and assembled it in one place and done the type of analytics that Adam and Steady are doing and fed it back to the consumer in really understandable ways, right? To say, no, you shouldn't be doing this. You should be doing this. This is how you make the most amount of money. Everybody wants a roadmap.
True.
You know, they don't want a bunch of numbers on the page. They'd like to be told, this is how, you know, you make more money if, you know, you engage in these activities. You gave us a financial goal. You're on track or you're off track. Now's the time to, you know, put in a little bit more hours to, you know, to get to that financial goal. That's what we're trying to do with Steady. I am, Dawn, to answer your question, you used the word investor. I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I'm a builder of businesses. A lot of times when you say investors, you think about, you know, venture capitalists or
just check writers, right? You're not just a check writer.
No, I'm not just a check writer. I frankly came by it naturally. I followed my dad into Time Inc. He was a journalist. I was on the business side. I became known as Launch Boy. If I was a little bit better at it, I would have been Launch Man, but Launch Boy. My last job there was launching Entertainment Weekly. That was a job that got me fired, and I didn't mean to get revenge, but I started the company outside of Time Inc. that I was trying to start inside of Time Inc. And 9 years after I started it, they bought it for a lot of money. And after that, I went from entrepreneur to serial entrepreneur. So launched a lot of companies. And that's just what I like to do. And if there is a theme, you know, it's the type of companies that help people. Okay. And, you know, a good example of other things that I launched a pharmacy discount product that saved people billions, literally billions of dollars on their pharmaceuticals, the things that they would buy every day at a drugstore.
Things they need.
And we were able to, you know, get lower prices for people. So Steady is a great one. Adam is a great operator. What we look for is, you know, helping people for sure, but disruptive, novel, brand new thinking. Mm-hmm. You know, the neat thing about Steady is we saw it first. It sounds aggrandizing, but we saw it first. We looked into the future and said, you know, no one is helping the worker in this situation. Not anymore. And by the way, it gets worse if it goes from one job to 5 jobs, because then all the power is on the people pushing the buttons. Well, what about flipping that script and giving the power to the people? And how do you give the power to the people? You give them the information saying, you know what? That person is not paying you the most amount of money right now. Mm-hmm. So guess what they're going to do? They're going to work for the highest payer. So you better, if you're an employer, you got no choice. You've got to raise that.
Yeah. Everything's being optimized on all sides. Yeah. That's fascinating.
Instead of, you know, all these companies, I mean, Uber and Lyft trade for tens of billions of dollars. They have dozens of data scientists working at any one time and to lower cost. And God bless them. That's what they're supposed to do, lower cost. Yeah. A lot of those costs are labor costs. What about taking the power of that and putting in everybody's pocket so they can, they can optimize their labor, right?
Yeah.
Make the most money for them. And that's
Sure.
what the goal is.
Yeah. It's a movement. So
It is.
let's touch on your growth just a little bit before we wrap up. 2 million registered members. I'm sure the pandemic tore that open, right? Nobody saw this coming. Nobody thought it would be this prolonged. You can blame whoever you want, but we're living through this right now. Where do you see this app in 6 months? Obviously, the technology is powering it. You've got the data. You've got a great guy running things. Where do you see the Steady app in 6 months? Are you looking for 5 million? Are you looking for 7.5? Where do you see your growth? It's been exponential as far as I'm concerned. I personally have never seen something multiply this quickly in this space. Where are we going to be 6 months from now?
We used to call it viral, but we can't use that anymore. Anyway, so instead of thinking in terms of 6 months, because I think that's one of the follies of investors. And, you talked about the stock market, they work in 3-month increments.
Yeah.
We are long-term players. So instead of 6 months, let's make it 6 years. And Adam, this is an easy one for you to answer, but, how big do you want Steady to get?
I mean, are you taking it global? I mean, right, it's here in the US. Like, do you see yourself launching in the UK or Western Europe?
So I think to answer that latter question, when the time is right? Michael and I have experience together in international markets, and he has his own independent experience, and it's always more difficult than you think it will be. And we have the largest market in the world here at home, unfortunately, with one of the largest needs now as a result of where workers currently are today. So from our perspective, our goal is to turn this platform into something that at the very least, every low to moderate income worker in America has in their pocket to help provide them with the digital advocacy that we're talking about. The more members we have, the more data we have, the more that we can do outside of even lifting people's income in terms of advocacy, driving policy change, et cetera, right, for this type of a workforce. So from our perspective, it's measured growth, it's aggressive growth, but measured. And ensuring that at the very least that everyone that comes onto the Steady platform is given at least the fighting chance to improve their life as a result of the service that we're providing. So as our product advances, the more we will scale.
Yeah. And again, you one word, opportunity, a fighting chance. Everybody deserves a chance. No matter where you're coming from, if you have the will, there has to be a way. That's what America is essentially about, right? So
I think, Dawn, just looking at that video once again, I'm reminded when people were, getting those awards, they didn't say, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get scotch. They didn't say I'm going to go and, go to, Red Lobster or, some fancy restaurant or buy myself.
No, they're surviving.
Yeah, they're talking about buying gas so they can actually, go on job interviews. I mean, they're talking about paying bills and, it's a very simple formula in America. And the fact of the matter is we are not a lazy people. We are a hardworking people and, we have children. We want to provide for them. You give them an opportunity. You give them a tool like Steady that can help them make the most amount of money they possibly can. They're going to use it and they're going to take that income and they're going to use it for good goals, good objectives. They want to live, they want to live in good homes. They want to take care of their children. They want to educate their kids. They want to make the world the better place for them. And we want to help them do it.
For sure. And thank you so much. This is fascinating. I will be watching your growth. I hope to speak to you both soon. Adam, you're a rock star. Michael, you're a legend. Fintech South is so grateful that you're here today on this Thursday afternoon, sharing your insights with us. And good luck with Steady. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.